Hey, Sully. How's it feel to betray your own race?
This is where the fun begins.
The best way I can describe Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is the unwanted sequel to Far Cry Primal, which makes everything worse compared to the original game. And instead of picking up the mantle of a based caveman fighting against other tribes and clans for the women with the widest birthing hips and territory, you instead pick up the mantle of the Na'vi in order to destroy the evil oil companies and save the planet from those awful human colonizers.
We only let the sky people's ways. Death, destruction, hate.
And I think the comparison to Far Cry Primal is the most suiting to this game because it's very obvious they pretty much borrowed everything that game did and somehow found a way to make it even more bland, dull, repetitive, and seemingly pointless to the point where I put 27 hours into this game until I eventually quit when I realized that I was that far in and I hadn't even seen 30% of the overall open world map in this game because of how over-bloated, drawn out, and just unnecessarily long this piece of shit game actually is. So in case you couldn't tell, I really don't like this game, guys, and TLDR, if you don't want to watch this entire video, should you buy Avatar Frontiers of Pandora? Absolutely fucking not. You shouldn't even subscribe to Ubisoft Plus to play this game because of how horrible this shit is. I would not wish this game on my worst enemy. This game is miserable from start to finish, and no matter how many hours you put in waiting for it to get good, it never does, and you're just continuously doing the same repetitive fetch quests and outpost clearing activities over and over again to the point where the main story and side activities seamlessly blend together because they're the exact same thing as each other. There is no variety in this game whatsoever, and the typical Ubisoft open world format is at the absolute worst in this game that I think it's ever been. This is the most bland, lifeless, dull, repetitive, unnecessarily large, over-bloated, just soulless Ubislop open world game they have ever produced in any of their games, AAA or AA, spin-off, mainline, you name it. This is absolute slop designed to waste as much time as humanly possible because of the modern misconception when it comes to video games that runtime equals value, regardless of how mind-numbingly boring those hours are you spend doing whatever it is you're doing in that video game, because for some reason people conflate a 60-hour game as being automatically better than a 10-hour game regardless of what you're actually doing in that specific amount of time. So this is Ubisoft at their absolute worst. Everything in this game feels like recycled, boring garbage, and you should avoid this game if you have any sort of respect for your personal time whatsoever. So yeah, hopefully that TLDR kind of sums up my overall thoughts on Ubisoft's latest open world Far Cry clone, because I really don't have anything positive to say about this game whatsoever. This is literally the epitome of everything wrong with the modern video game industry, and yeah, this is going to be a fun one, guys. So, you know, buckle in those brain cells, because let's go ahead and kick shit off right off the jump here with the technical issues you will encounter in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. So not only is this game in typical Ubisoft fashion mind-numbingly boring, but on top of that, it is fundamentally broken to its core, and you will encounter pretty much every single type of technical issue you could imagine. I mean, within the first 20 seconds of me starting the game initially, my entire console hard crashed. Not the game quitting and going back to the dashboard. The entire console powered off completely, and I had to restart it. I mean, I thought I was making the right decision purchasing this game on console, console, because in typical Ubisoft fashion, the PC ports of their newly released games are unoptimized, literal pieces of garbage that can't even run well on the top tier PC gaming hardware available at the time. So I thought, hey, I'll play it safe, I'll get it on console and see how it goes, because typically the console experience is a lot more polished than the PC experience, but this time around, the console launch must have been just as bad as the PC version, and it's pretty obvious that Ubisoft just rushed this out as soon as they could, because I think the Avatar license was probably set to expire at this point, so they had to hurry up and pinch this loaf off in the toilet so they could just get something out there. And it really does show, man, because the array of technical issues that you'll encounter in this game pretty much touch all aspects, whether it be absolutely horrible frame drops, or lighting issues that make it look like you're inside of a rave at a European nightclub.
Let's go, Fury! A gas oil separation plant.
But also the glitches extend to different elements in the open world, like NPCs that literally do not move for the entirety of the game. They're literally stuck in one place, and even those NPCs have horrible examples of clipping that puts even a Bethesda game to shame.
Getting the nectar I need?
Let me see. Yep, there's a facility near you. You'll have to take it out. That'll stop the pollution, and the forest should clear up. Sid will help you do it quietly.
Okay, I'll go check it out.
Dropping the coordinates now.
Or even something as simple as a loincloth in a cutscene that looks like it's trying with every single fiber of its being to avoid giving you a crotch shot of one of the main NPC navies you'll find throughout the game.
To turn so vicious. Did the Sky People do this to them? They have no peace, no calm, only the hunt.
If they have your scent, maybe I can catch them unaware.
Perhaps, but give them the mercy of a swift death. Only then will they finally be reunited with Ewa. The poor beasts deserve that kindness, at least.
And keep in mind, this is during a cutscene, not even when you're just standing there and able to move around freely, interacting with the open world. This is literally in a pre-rendered sequence that plays out when you initiate dialogue with a quest-related NPC.
Only the hunt.
If they have your scent, maybe I can catch them unaware.
And sticking on the topic of NPCs, when it comes to combat, the combat in this game is not free of glitches either. In fact, some of the worst glitches that I encountered while playing this game were from combat. One example I can think of is when I was shooting enemies with a longbow. Every single time I would kill them, they would literally disappear in real time, like their entire character model would just instantaneously despawn. Or when you're clearing out an outpost in this game for the 800th fucking time. You know, I encountered this issue several times where I was trying to snipe the mechs from a distance or from a rooftop or whatever within the base, and, you know, for some reason my arrows would not be able to make contact with them. Now, whether this is a glitch or an invisible wall preventing me from traversing, I'm not entirely sure, but just go ahead and take a look and try to explain this one. But it gets even worse from here, because there's another issue I encountered while playing this game, that when I was aiming down sight with my weapons, all of a sudden, for whatever reason, my character would automatically turn 100 degrees to either the right or the left, completely fucking up my aim and making it so I wasn't even looking at the target that I was trying to shoot at that particular moment. And just all of a sudden, like someone else had remotely hijacked my controller and aimed me in a completely different direction. All of a sudden, I wasn't even looking at the same enemy, and it happens basically instantaneously, definitely leading me to believe that this is 100% a glitch. But, you know, go ahead and take a look. And in a game where you die insanely quickly, this is beyond frustrating, because it can literally be the difference between life or death in certain instances. So it definitely is what I would consider to be a game-breaking bug 100%. But even something as simple as interacting with a fucking chest, which, to be fair, this moment was by far the most interesting thing that had happened 10 hours into my playthrough, but even something as simple as interacting with a chest in the environment can literally serve as a game-breaking bug. Now, if only my journey with the game had actually ended at that point, I probably would be a lot happier right now. But that just goes to show you, man, pretty much every aspect of this game has something fundamentally wrong with it. And just to make it even worse, I got one more thing I forgot to even mention. There are instances where you will be traversing the environment and you will fall through different objects in the environment. And because there's no actual like reload last checkpoint option or anything like that, you have to literally exit to the main menu and reload the game and hope that you're not stuck in the place that you're stuck. And this happened to me, I want to say, at least 10 to 12 times playing this game. It feels like the environment was very poorly crafted. I know Ubisoft probably uses some degree of AI or procedural generation in making these massive, bland open worlds, so it wouldn't be surprising if that's the reason why, but the amount of times it happened to me was beyond frustrating. And here's just one example of that, which makes it even worse because you can clearly see there should be a way for me to get out. Oh, and just one more thing to add fuel to the fire. Just, this is a personal gripe, personally. It doesn't directly have to do with the game, but it also kind of does. The achievements in this game are bugged. It does not properly track your progress while doing the achievements. I had several achievements that should have popped during my playthrough pop 3 hours after the fact, never unlock at all, never properly track the progress. Like, it just didn't fucking work. So that's another thing. Maybe you don't necessarily care about achievements, but for me personally, I do actually really care about gamer score. It's one of the few reasons why I continue to play on Xbox, because I do love Xbox's achievement system. So if you're a trophy hunter or achievement hunter, which I know a lot of people who play these Ubisoft games are, that's something to keep in mind, because you might be doing all this shit to unlock achievements and you're not even going to get the achievements at the end of it, which makes the mundane, brain dead, and mindlessly boring fucking quests you're going to be doing over and over again even worse, because you don't even get that little payoff at the end. But yeah, I think think we've beaten the horse, buried it, dug it back up, and beat it some more, and now it's in the fucking incinerator. So I think we've covered quite enough surrounding the technical issues of this game. If you aren't convinced by now, I don't know what the fuck to tell you. This game is a buggy, broken pile of shit, and it's worse than the majority of Ubisoft releases, which is actually a triumph for them, because how they manage to continuously outdo themselves in this regard is quite impressive if you ask me. But overall, man, just for this aspect alone, I would definitely not recommend picking this game up, because the amount of issues I ran into is just downright unacceptable for a $70 or $130 AAA game, depending on which version of the game you buy digitally. So the fact that they released this game in this state just shows you that they were trying to rush this shit out as soon as possible, either to avoid losing the Avatar license, or they were trying to get this out before the end of the year to help their company-wide financials by having this game's sales counted in their quarterly financials ending in December. But regardless of what that reason is, it doesn't change the fact that this is by far the buggiest, most broken, bland, and downright boring AAA release of 2023, hands down, that I have played this year. And overall, for these reasons alone, I would tell you to hold off on buying this game. But let's go ahead and move on to the next category of this review, and that is none other than the amazing open world that you will be exploring in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. Now, what you're going to see in the background of this game is basically how long it takes to get from one point on the map to another within one individual quest activity before you get your flying mount creature thingy that you can fly around on, which does make the traversal significantly faster. But during the first 4 to 5 hours of this game, you will not have that, and you literally will be walking in a straight line essentially across this map for like 10 to 15 minutes, getting from one objective to the other. And this was to the point where I was playing it and I was literally dozing off in real time while playing it. You could ask anybody that was in the stream watching me play this game. I was literally falling asleep for like a couple seconds at a time, sitting in my gaming chair playing this because of just how bland and boring it was, walking from point A to point B in the same recycled environment over and fucking over again, because you are lucky if you encounter a singular thing to interact with of any fucking worth within the open world environment for like an hour on end at times. Because once you finally filled up your microscopic pouch with cooking materials and healing items, there's literally nothing to do in the open world aside kill the like little generic 3 to 4 enemies that appear in packs every once in a while that are just like little generic animals, or the occasional RDA troops that might be guarding a key location. But even those are few and far between, and you will literally go hours in some cases in this game without engaging in combat once. It is downright miserable, and it just shows Ubisoft's open world design at its absolute fucking worst. Now, like I mentioned, once you do get access to the flying mount, the traversal is a lot more manageable. You're still gonna have the symptom of flying in a straight line for several minutes on end for no real apparent reason whatsoever. There's maybe the occasional 2 or 3 helicopters you can shoot at, but once you kill them, they disappear from the map entirely because they only guard these floating platforms. So once you kill a certain amount of them, there's literally nothing to engage with in the skies of this game whatsoever. So it just makes the game feel even more lifeless and bland, and like it's designed as solely nothing other than a time sink. Like, this game's open world is beyond unnecessary to the point where 90% of it is literally just going in a straight line from point A to point B with literally nothing of any sort of substance along the way. And the flying aspect, while speeding up the traversal, really just exacerbates this even more and just makes it feel like you are literally just wasting your time in this open world. Which, talking about the open world, every open world needs the open world map, and Ubisoft is known for having a map filled with activities and collectibles and side things to go and do and explore. Well, in this game, this has to be the worst open world map I think I've ever seen. You literally cannot zoom this thing in to any actual manageable degree. Like, you're constantly left with this massive, like, you know, overhead viewpoint that you can't actually zoom in and see the smaller details of the map, because a lot of the items items you're going to have to go and find and pick up are based on altitude, because a lot of things are up in the air in this game because you can fly around to like the floating islands and everything like that. So it can be very hard to pinpoint exactly where the item is that you're looking for that's marked on the map, because the map doesn't actually allow you to zoom in and get a feel for where that item is actually located. So that is definitely a big annoyance when you're playing this game. The map design is absolutely fucking horrible, and on top of that, this map is just fucking massive, dude. And like I mentioned at the beginning of this review, I played the game for 27 hours, and when I say that I only experienced about 30% of the map, that is the truth, man. Now, I looked up footage of what the rest of the map looks like, and it's really not that different. It's pretty much the exact same shit. But what this game does that's really obnoxious, and we'll talk about this more when we get to the gameplay segment of this game, this game basically blocks off areas of the open world behind either plot progression or level, because once again, Ubisoft is back to level-based combat because it's just so much fucking fun, dude. I think the most egregious example I can think of in this game is literally in the first area, like the part where you start out in the open world. There is a level 8 outpost, and directly next to it across the river is a level 20 outpost. Now, keep in mind, in my 27 hours of playing and basically just grinding side quests, activities, collectibles, you name it, things that would directly result in me leveling up as quickly as possible, I only got to level 7 in 27 hours of playing this game. So I don't even want to fucking know how long it would take me to get to level 20 in order to do that outpost that was next to the level 8 outpost. And of course, in typical Ubisoft fashion, if you're level 7, a level 8 enemy is going to kill you in like 2 hits, and it's going to take forever for you to actually kill them yourself. So, you know, the wonderful balancing of Ubisoft's level-based combat and world design is back in full force, and it just further adds to this insanely boring and slow sense of progression, which, coupled with the boring, generic, and unnecessarily large open world, makes it seem like a literal chore simulator to explore and do the various activities within. So this is by far my least favorite open world that Ubisoft has ever designed. It has never felt more bland than it does in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. This game is absolutely horrific from an open world game design, and like I mentioned, early on in this game is when it's the worst, because you literally will have to walk on foot for like 15 minutes at a time in a straight line in order to get from one objective to the next, because you don't have any fast travel points unlocked at that point. So it is absolutely fucking obnoxious and a genuine chore to explore this world, and there's no actual meaningful rewards or experiences that you will encounter while exploring, so it makes it even fucking worse. Like, it would be one thing if the open world sucked, but there was still like some interesting shit to see and do within it every once in a while. That is not even the case, and as far as combat encounters even go, those are few and far between as well. So it just feels like another soulless Ubislop open world that was shit out of like fucking Chat GPT if they asked it, make a boring, generic, unnecessarily large open world themed around Avatar, and this is exactly what it delivered. And overall, this game definitely suffers from that. So moving on from the open world, guys, to another happy topic, and that of course is the gameplay. Now, the gameplay of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is a mix between Far Cry Primal and Far Cry 6. And when I say a mix, I mean all the jankiness of Far Cry Primal with the bow and arrow mixed with the guns of Far Cry 6, but not anywhere near as fun, creative, or actually good to use, because the gunplay in this game feels absolutely horrific, which the gunplay in Far Cry has never really felt that great. Like, Ubisoft and shooting mechanics have never really done well together. I don't know what it is, but they just don't really seem to have the ability to nail that first-person shooter feel and make a very responsive and fun game to play. It always feels like it's really clunky and bloated and just doesn't really know what the fuck a first-person shooter should feel like. But that is made 10 times worse than any other Ubisoft first-person shooter that I have played to date. The controls in this game feel borderline jank, you can't even aim down sight while using a gun. You can literally see the guns have a fucking sight. You can press LT to zoom in your view. You cannot actually look down the reticle or iron sights of the gun, even though canonically in this game, your Na'vi character has been trained with human fucking weaponry, dude. When I say that this game is an absolute fucking joke, man, I absolutely mean it, because, you know, Far Cry has never really had great gunplay, like I mentioned, but somehow they made it feel even fucking worse. I mean, I guess it's so you get the full native experience and you're trying to, like, prioritize people to use the bow and arrows, because they genuinely feel more fucking usable in combat scenarios than a fucking assault rifle, which is just absolutely incredible. And yeah, I know, like, it's probably paired with the anti-gun propaganda throughout this game that's sprinkled into the dialogue. I'm 100% sure that has a big portion to do with it, but overall, I say that to say this: the gunplay and gameplay in general of this game feels janky, it feels clunky, it feels unrefined, and it feels just completely fucking rushed, and at no point is it ever actually fun to play. Even the traversal is really fucking obnoxious at times and just borderline jank beyond belief. But that's par for the course for Ubisoft, and not exactly what I want to focus on here, because what I want to focus on in terms of gameplay is this horrible level-based combat system that is present in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora and is by far the worst implementation I have ever seen in terms of Ubisoft implementing level-based combat progression and how you actually go about that. So in a traditional Ubisoft game with level-based combat, you have a situation where you kill a certain amount of enemies, you do a certain number of quests, you get XP, you level up, you get skill points, and your level, you know, increases as you go through that gameplay loop. Regardless of what you're doing, you're being rewarded by getting XP to level up in order to get to that next plot point or do the next story mission. But Avatar does it in an even more obnoxious way, because you could literally go liberate 100 outposts, you could kill 10,000 enemies, you could hunt 5,000 animals, you could gather 300,000 plants and not level up once in this game. The only way to level up in Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is directly linked to fucking gear stats, and the only reliable way to get better gear in this game is to fucking craft it. So not only are you gonna have to grind a bunch of bullshit side activities in this game, you have to go out and look for rare materials to use the blueprints that you acquire from doing the quest in order to actually craft the items that are going to slowly level up your character. And on top of that, it's paired with different gear mods that you find scattered throughout the world, either from completing quests, looting chests, or whatever the activity is, and you have to do that essentially to level up. So you don't even level up in the traditional sense of like getting XP, killing enemies, completing quests. You have to go out and gather materials to craft new equipment in order to level up, and this is a painstakingly slow process. I was grinding for an hour and a half trying to do side activities, collect skill point collectibles around the map, find new blueprints, get new gear, just in order to get from level 6 to level 7. It took me almost 2 hours to do that. This game is mind-numbingly fucking boring when it comes to the progression system, and you will literally be hard-locked from progressing the story after every single mission, because there is never a scenario where you complete a level 6 story mission and are actually level 7 by the end of it. You have to go back out into the open world and go fucking scavenge and try and marginally increase your gear just progressively in order to just get enough to get to that next level, so that you don't die in 1 or 2 hits from enemies that are just 1 level higher from you in the next campaign mission. It is just one of the worst implementations of level-based combat in a Ubisoft game I have ever fucking seen. I hated this in previous Assassin's Creed games, where basically, you know, you would have to go and do like a bunch of activities and get enough XP to do the next campaign mission, mission. I thought that was bad, but this is even fucking worse because I hate forced crafting mechanics in a fucking first-person shooter, dude. Like, it's just beyond obnoxious, and at no point does it ever actually feel like the gear is actually affecting your gameplay whatsoever. All it is some arbitrary bullshit number that makes it so that you can progress to the next area of the map or do the next story or side mission that's basically locked off because your fucking loincloth isn't a high enough number in the menu. I mean, it's absolutely fucking infuriating, man. And this kind of bleeds into another aspect that I wanted to touch on in regards to gameplay, is just the quest structure in this game. Because when I mentioned you have to like do one story mission, then go do a bunch of generic side activities, what I started to notice is the story missions have the exact same format and overall objectives as the side activities do in this game. So when you're doing these story missions after having to grind side activities for a very long time, it doesn't even feel like a payoff because the story missions are the exact same structure as the side missions. They involve, you know, liberating an outpost, taking out a certain number of RDA soldiers, finding a specific item at one part of the map and bringing it back to someone. Like, regardless if you're doing side, main, or just generic activities throughout the map, you're going to be feeling like you're doing the same thing over and fucking over again. And the majority of these quests are just fetch quests through and through. So even when you actually get the payoff of doing all this bullshit to artificially inflate your level for no fucking reason other than obvious fucking padding to draw out the runtime of this game, there's not even an interesting payoff in any way whatsoever. The only interesting main campaign mission of this game is when you get your flying mount, but even that felt unnecessarily drawn out at times. And once that's over, it is just a complete fucking dull grind until the very end that's filled with unmemorable activity after unmemorable activity in an effort to just squeeze as much runtime out of this game as humanly possible. So in that regard, the gameplay is a complete fucking unbearable slog fest that's worse than any fucking Ubisoft game I think I have ever seen to date. And that really is saying something because modern Ubisoft games are just absolutely horrific when it comes to this aspect, and Avatar Frontiers of Pandora manages to outdo all the previous examples we have of this exact same problem that plagues the modern Ubisoft open world experience. So yeah, even in the rare instances of combat, it's just downright not fun. The exploration is tedious, monotonous, and extremely repetitive. And on top of that, the quest structure, whether you're doing side quests, main quests, or just side activities in general, feels like it's literally the exact same thing over and over again with a few standouts here and there, but nothing to actually justify sitting through this absolute fucking slog of a main campaign. And overall, man, if you were hoping for the gameplay to redeem this game whatsoever, you will be gravely mistaken in that regard and very disappointed. But once again, man, Ubisoft strikes again at somehow topping themselves in their race to the bottom. But moving on from that, let's go ahead and talk about the story. Now, I did not finish the main story of this game, but I did watch the rest of the campaign on YouTube and watch the ending and everything like that, and it definitely does not get any better from the point I got to, so I can safely say that the story of this game is a complete and total fucking joke. It's extremely predictable, it's puddle deep, and overall, this is one of the most low-effort stories I've seen in a Ubisoft game to date, especially one of their AAA games. Even some of their spin-off games have a more deep and like actually, you know, interesting story than this fucking slop. So overall, man, the story is not even good for what it is. And of course, considering the fact that it is the Avatar franchise, it is absolutely filled with woke propaganda at every single opportunity. The entire premise of the Avatar franchise is basically a bunch of eco-terrorist natives rising up against the evil colonizing oil company. And on top of that, this game literally sprinkles in anti-gun rhetoric, all sorts of capitalism bad messaging, and I mean, shit, dude, you know the game's gonna be absolute fucking dog shit in this regard when the opening fucking line of dialogue in the game is literally a knock against Christopher Columbus.
Good morning. Let's review the ambassador program. When the RDA discovered Pandora...
You can't discover something that was there all along.
When we say discovered, we mean it was the first time humans came here.
So for all the people that were calling me out saying that this game wouldn't be woke, you know, you look like an absolute fucking fool, because the entire premise of the Avatar franchise has literally been political propaganda since James Cameron first dreamed it up in his fucking demented head of his, where he believes that testosterone is a fucking poison. Yeah, but essentially, to sum up the story, basically you're a Na'vi that was kidnapped. You're one of the few surviving members of like your Na'vi tribe or whatever. And essentially you were trained and raised within this RDA facility. 8 years go by, you escape from it, and essentially the entire plot surrounds about you learning what it means to be a Na'vi, taking out the evil oil refineries and outposts of the RDA, and then eventually getting revenge on the person that took you away from your family. Essentially. That is the entire plot of the game. It's incredibly mediocre, boring, and at no point is it ever interesting, just like the movies that it's sourced from. You know, go figure. But overall, the story is filled with absolutely horrible fucking cringe dialogue and characters. I mean, as far as dialogue goes, it doesn't get any fucking worse than this bitch.
Sorry, filter got stuck. Jin thinks he's got it figured out now. Oh my gosh, another one. I am so glad you're here since, you know, there's so few of you left. Oh god, I'm so sorry. Welcome to Resistance HQ. Right. Sorry. Oh, well, Nati Kamie. What?
I think extremely cool. Well, I think it's cool. No, you'll think it's cool too. You know, whenever you get a chance to come see. Like, whenever's fine.
I'm on my way back to HQ. See you soon.
Ooh, yes!
And as you probably noticed from that clip, your character sounds very familiar. He sounds just like the fucking voice actor of Miles Morales from Spider-Man 2, and I checked, it's not the same guy, but throughout the game, you will definitely notice a pretty incredible similarity, and it's bad for all the fucking same reasons it was in Spider-Man.
How long were we asleep? But they stole it.
We must change that.
Wait! What should I do now?
Do.
Soldiers!
But yeah, the writing in this game is absolutely fucking horrific, and there's only one interesting character in the game, and of course he's the evil fucking white guy, so, you know, you gotta want to kill him, bro, and they make him comically evil, but because they do that, he's actually, unironically, the most interesting character in the game, because he doesn't feel like some shitty Reddit Marvel movie tier character, and of course they have to make him the villain.
Stop there! Can you hear me?
Gotcha. What'd you catch, Harding? You don't gotta worry about this one. It hasn't got anywhere near the fight its sister did.
Murderer!
Well, look where it got her. Such a shame. They could have been of use once, but now there are no Na'vi ambassadors. Only Na'vi obstacles.
But yeah, there's only one based scene in this entire game, and, you know, I wish I would have recorded my reaction to it in real time because it was fucking great, but here's the clip, man. I was actually cheering, and this was one of the few moments of the game I was actually excited.
We saved you, gave you a home, an identity.
We already had an identity. We are not me.
No! You are what I made you!
We may not remember the words, but we can still sing the songs of our people.
Stop singing. I said shut up! Stop singing!
We are going home. Aunga kenne kelku.
I'm warning you, Harry. Not another step.
Sa'o matelan. Wangiran na kalku.
Stop right there!
What did you do? No, no, no!
But aside from that moment, there's really nothing interesting that happens in the story from that point out. All you're really doing is taking out oil refineries, drilling sites, and the different outposts that the RDA has set up across this region of Pandora. So overall, man, the story is completely forgettable. None of the actual Navi characters are memorable because they all literally look and sound the exact same. So none of them really stick out, and you kind of forget about them like within 2 minutes of interacting with them, to be completely honest. And just with the amount of woke bullshit sprinkled into this game, down to the like literal core fucking plot mechanics, it's just cringe-worthy at every opportunity. And overall, this game is just as blatantly fucking obnoxious and obvious with its true fucking intentions, just like the movies. So if you were thinking that maybe the story could come in clutch and maybe redeem this game in any way, shape, or form, it does not. It is just as half-assed and low effort as the rest of the game in true Ubisoft fashion. So I think we've kind of, heard enough about this game at this point. In all honesty, I'm kind of getting sick of talking about it just as I was sick of playing it. So let's go ahead and put a nice little bow on this baby and wrap this shit up. So in conclusion, guys, I think it is a very safe statement for me to say that Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is the worst game of 2023 that I played personally or within the AAA gaming genre. I'm sure people will point to games like Lord of the Rings Gollum or Kong Skull Island or whatever the fuck, but let's be honest, guys, those were not genuine, legitimate game releases from like a AAA game studio. Those were shitty fucking asset flips just trying to cash in on a popular IP. And while yes, Avatar is very similar in that regards, it is a shitty fucking asset flip from Ubisoft trying to cash in on a popular movie IP. It is coming from a legitimate development studio. This is supposedly developed by the studio behind the Division games at Ubisoft. So this is not some fucking no-name bumfuck studio putting out their first project into the video game industry. So I think that's why this elevates it in my mind, because this game obviously had a massive budget and a large amount of resources behind it, and it was just completely squandered and wasted potential at every single opportunity, to the point where I literally cannot think of anything redeeming about this game whatsoever, other than the game looks pretty good at times, man. Now, there are cases where the game looks downright horrible, but overall I'd say graphically it's a pretty impressive game. But when you consider everything else that goes into it, the shitty quest design, the generic story, the horrible level-based combat and level-up mechanic tied to gear in this game, the insanely unnecessarily large, empty, and soulless open world, there's just nothing to redeem it here. And on top of that, the gameplay that is there every once in a while is complete and utter shit and feels like a massive downgrade from the Far Cry games themselves. So overall, I just don't really have anything positive to say about this game whatsoever. So that's why I feel very safe in ranking this as the worst game of 2023, at least in my personal opinion from what I have played and experienced myself. Now, I think Dreamcast guy unironically put this best when he described Avatar Frontiers of Pandora in his review of the game.
What's up, gamers? Dreamcast guy here, and this is my brutally honest review for Avatar Legends of Pandora. Wait, that's not even the name of it. It's Frontiers of Pandora. This game is so incredibly boring, I literally can't even remember the name of it. In my opinion, boring is worse than bad. If you have a game that's a complete dumpster fire, an absolute train wreck of funny glitches or complete breakdowns of core game mechanics, at least that's interesting to pick apart, at least for me as a reviewer. This game is just so bland and basic, it's difficult to even explain to you why you probably shouldn't buy it. Okay, so we've heard a lot of bad and a little bit of good. Let's go over to the ratings board and put a big number on it. I am giving Avatar Frontiers of Pandora a 6 out of 10.
And while yes, I agree with Dreamcast Guy that boring is worse than bad, because I'm actually able to have fun in certain bad games like the original Dead Island, for example, I would not go as far as to give this game a 6 out of 10, because as boring and just downright fucking miserable as this game is to sit through, I don't think this game deserves anything above a 3 out of 10, bro. This game is absolutely horrible and should be avoided by anyone and everyone that even has the slightest respect for their personal time or just wants to have any sort of fun playing video games at all, because there is nothing fun about this game whatsoever. It is a miserable experience from the moment you pick it up to the moment you eventually just give up, bored out of your fucking mind. But anyway, guys, that is my review for Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, my worst game of 2023, hands fucking down, and I don't even think it's close. So let me know your thoughts on this game in the comment section below. Did you pick it up? Did you play it? Did you like it? Am I full of shit? Make sure to let me know. I'm definitely interested in hearing what people have to say about this game in particular. So if you could do that, I would appreciate it. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like on it as well. It does go a long way in helping out my channel in the algorithm. So if you could do that too, that would also be greatly appreciated. But with that shit said, guys, this video is already long enough. So if you made it to the end, big ups to you. Appreciate all the support on the channel recently, guys. You guys are the fucking best, and I will catch you guys next time with hopefully a much better game to talk about.